Well, it's Dear Andy and Dear Ari Day. So let's start with a question from Andrew that sort of tees us up here. Do you think Ohio State's defense will be better under Matt Patricia now that he's the defensive coordinator than they were under Jim Knowles? And I will answer that question unequivocally. If this question is, will Ohio State's defense be better in 2025 than it was in 2024? No, it will not, because you will not have that level of veteran talent on the defense. It will not be as good because you have to replace so many players. You will not have a bunch of fourth and fifth year seniors who could be in the NFL right now anchoring your defense. You still have the best defensive player in the country in Caleb Downs, but you don't have all that other stuff. So to judge Matt Patricia in 2025 by the standard of Jim Knowles in 2024, highly unfair. Highly unfair.
Yeah, the question, I don't know if Buddy Ryan would have a better defense next year. I don't know, who are the best defensive coordinators of all time? Buddy Ryan was the defensive coordinator for the 85 Bears, right? It's not
correct.
I feel like being a great defensive coordinator in college football is still about who you have. That's somebody from the Notre Dame site called me and was asking me about Chris Ash. And it's well, Chris Ash was really good at Ohio State, but Chris Ash also had 10 draft picks on his defense. I think it's about as much what talent you bring in and how it fits your scheme as much as it is about how much of a genius you are upstairs with the pencil in your ear. So from that standpoint, Ohio State's defense is going to be replacing just about every important person. I think Caleb Downs makes it better. I think that having somebody like that is a nice little eraser for mistakes. But, Ohio State's defense last year got overshadowed by their offense and Jeremiah Smith. People like touchdowns and true freshman receivers, but what do you think was the better unit on Ohio State's team a year ago? I think you can make
the defense unquestionably
was a better unit. So the question I don't know should be, do you think it'll be better? And this is the thing that happened at Ohio State constantly over the 10 years that I covered them. When they had a really good player, if a quarterback would leave, when Cardale Jones was done or when Braxton was done, the question was always, do you think it's going to be better than it was before? And I don't know if that's the right way to frame it. Maybe that's because those are the expectations, that there's no pullback and everything gets better every year, no matter what. But is the defense going to be okay is the question, right? Is this the right hire? Is this the person that you want leading the show? And, on a second note, I've actually thought about writing a column about this, and I might do it after the episode. But, is Ohio State going to be the new rehab for coaches, the way that Saban did? When you look at what has done or happened to Chip Kelly's career and some of the candidates that have come in, that's if Matt Patricia comes in, has a good 2-year run, is he the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns or the Cincinnati Bengals or the LA Chargers in 2 years? Is that what's happening here? Obviously, you have the New England connection. He's got 3 Super Bowls, and Ryan Day is from that area. The Belichick connection obviously goes without saying. But I think that the general reaction to this has been, I'm not sure about this. Seems like a risk.
Let's throw on from AJ in the chat a bonus Dear Andy, Dear Ari question. Do we not believe that Knowles is a better coach than Patricia? I don't necessarily believe that. Jim Knowles is a good college defensive coordinator. He was great at Duke. He was great at Oklahoma State. He was good at Ohio State. And then when he had the best players, he was absolutely lights out. Matt Patricia has been a good defensive coordinator in the NFL, where it's a lot harder to be a good defensive coordinator.
Yeah. And I want to go back to something I just said, because I don't want it to come across as me comparing Ryan Day to Nick Saban. I hope that that's not the takeaway. I just mean that if Ohio State's coming off of a national championship and is able to pay big-time coordinators to come in and coach really good players, there's a chance for them to, turn around their viewpoint as coaches. So, I am kind of iffy on it, because I don't know if Ohio State is actually in the point of retread hires. That said, he's also been highly successful at the highest level. There were some really interesting
the highest of the highest level. He was not successful as an NFL head coach, and I think that's where this comes from.
Does that matter?
I don't think it does, but I do think in terms of your name recognition and your like instant feeling about a person, especially if you're like an Ohio State fan, a Michigan fan, like a Big Ten fan, like you're in the area. So the Lions are something that cross your path quite a bit. And so if you are a Big Ten country person and you hear the name Matt Patricia, probably the first thing you think is, oh, the guy who didn't do well with the Lions. And so that may be somewhat shading how people think about this thing. I think you need to think about it in terms of how was Matt Patricia as a defensive coordinator, because that is the job he's been hired to do. Now, I will point out our friends at Reddit College Football, this was really funny. One of the posters, Notre Dame fans, it was great hire for the Bucs. Everyone knows that Matt Patricia is wildly respected in the injury, and his players have loved him at every level. Slam dunk hire. That is sarcasm. A Michigan fan, though, he does have experience destroying a football team in Michigan. So that is, hey, what is the ultimate goal as an Ohio State coach? Is to destroy a football team in Michigan. So he's well versed in that.
Did he destroy the Lions, or was
he didn't destroy the Lions?
He was the latest person who failed to make them good.
He was the latest, not Dan Campbell, who has resurrected the Lions.
Yeah, like the Lions are really good the last 2 years. I don't think that we should forget what the Lions have been for the previous 30. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's a pretty difficult job, and it's like I don't know. Like I've been following the Browns my whole life, and it's like I don't know that I would take any coach that had a hard time there and feel like they're a bad coach. So yeah, like, but there's some mixed feelings on this, because it feels like if he is not given or has a ton of NFL jobs at his fingertips, then maybe the time has passed him by, right?
Maybe.
Is there a risk in that to you?
Well, he also didn't go with Bill to North Carolina, even though he was doing a podcast with Bill. Now, look, Bill did hire his son, Steve, as the defensive coordinator. So blood is thicker than pencils, I suppose.
There's level.
Yeah. But I just look at it like this, and here's what I think is going to happen. I think this is a sign of what we're going to see quite a bit more of as the college game looks more similar to the NFL game in terms of roster construction and player acquisition and that sort of thing. There will be more movement between the two. Like right now, the position coaches are all dying to get out of college and get into the NFL because they don't want to deal with having to re-recruit their players every single day. And I get that. The coordinator level guys, I feel like, are happy to move between the worlds, because right now, if you're a coordinator level guy and you don't want to recruit, that's fine. You won't be one of the 10 on the road. They'll have some younger, recruiter guy do that. And then you just worry about coaching and you close recruits when they come on their visits and all that sort of thing. So it's easier for someone who has not been in that college football world. Like it used to be, if you were going to hire somebody as a coordinator, they better be a good recruiter too. Or you'd better have some other guys in your assistant coaching pool that can make up for that. Now, they don't even have to be an on-the-road recruiter. You just have somebody else who's good at that be that. When it comes to making the best hamburgers around, the basics matter. And Wendy's, well, they've got burger basics on lock, and it shows. What's the secret to all those hot and juicy hamburgers? It's simple. Wendy's always crafts their hamburgers with that fresh, never frozen beef that they're famous for. The result, hot and juicy beefy hamburger perfection every single time, no matter which hamburger you order from the Wendy's menu, whether it's the Baconator, the Dave's Single, the Double. Ooh, the Double's pretty good too. You already know that thanks to those Wendy's Burger Basics, it's going to be exactly what you were craving. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada, not available in Hawaii. Go get some fresh burgers at Wendy's.
And the thing that I want to remind people, too, is that you remember a year ago when Ohio State hired Bill O'Brien, and then it turned into Chip Kelly, like what the response was to those hires. And then Chip Kelly helped Ohio State win a national championship. And I thought, outside of one game, called the offense masterfully this year and is getting paid $6 million a year to be offensive coordinator of the Raiders now. So, it's like, to me, it's, oh, yeah, here we go. David Green.
David in chat says, wasn't Chip Kelly considered a failed pro coach as well? Not by people who watch college football, because the thing is, he was a failed pro coach. He also was an all-time great college coach at Oregon. So,
yeah, but also
and an okay one at UCLA.
Chip Kelly also wasn't just a failed pro coach. He was a recently failed college coach too, right? Like people thought that his UCLA tenure didn't go correctly, and he went on record.
Failed. I just thought he was just okay.
Yeah,
and a lot of it was his refusal to play the game you have to play for talent acquisition, which is exactly what I was just talking about. He got to go to Ohio State, where he did not have to play the game for talent acquisition because there were other people on the staff to play it.
Yeah. And he can unequivocally call plays. So, it was a 1-year stop. He went back and coached with a person that he had been a mentor figure to, and now he's off to the races. So, I don't know if I have any strong feelings of like, this is awful. I think that when you put a coach who is probably the one thing you can't say is that he doesn't have a good defensive mind. Although it is kind of interesting that he was in the middle also too of the most peculiar coordinator thing I've ever seen in the NFL.
So strange. That gave me more questions about Belichick than anything else.
But like to me, I was like, when it happened, I was like, is Belichick such a genius that he decided that if you're a good defensive coordinator, that puts you in the offensive mentality of like, if they're running that defense, I know exactly how to beat. Like, I don't know, like if you overthought it, but it went terribly. But
he was just copying Jeremy Pruitt. Because remember, Jeremy Pruitt, when he was the head coach at Tennessee, at one point was like, "I'll just call the offense too."
How'd
that work out?
Yeah, who was the quarterback when Patricia was the offensive coordinator? There was it Bailey Zappi.
It was a combination of Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi.
So maybe it wasn't his fault. When they start that up, like, hey, yeah,
Mac Jones slander. But no, so let's look at Ohio State's schedule this year. What will the biggest challenges be for Matt Patricia? Well, right out of the gate, Arch Manning in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
They go to Washington. I'm telling you, Damon Williams Jr. Remember the name, Damon Williams Jr. The new Illinois on the road with Luke Altmaier. And now that offense is replacing some pretty good receivers. So Illinois brings back a lot of talent on defense. They bring back their best offensive linemen. They bring back Luke Altmaier at quarterback. We need to see what they can do at receiver, but that one, and then obviously Penn State at home in probably the biggest conference game they play until the huge one at the end of the season.
Yeah, really tough first 4 games, right? 2 of them, I mean. Opening at home against Texas, and I think that's a game that is kind of like, where are we at type of a thing for both teams even. I think that's true for Texas as well. Then you get to bounce back and against 2 teams that you'll probably be favored by 30 over, and then next thing you know, you're on the road at Washington, a team that might be much improved. Like Jed Fish doesn't just stink at coaching now. They had a bad year last year, but I do believe in his ability to assemble a roster, and they got Sicario Davis too. Like they got some players now at Washington and a quarterback that's going to be super exciting. If Ohio State starts off the year, 3-1 or 2-2, then you might have some questions. But again, they don't have the same caliber of athlete on defense from top to bottom on the 2 deep as they did last year. So the expectation that he is Knowles or that Ohio State's defense is absolutely dominant the way that it was a year ago is probably just irrational expectation.
It is irrational. And like you said, it could be Buddy Ryan. It wouldn't matter. Like they're going to probably take a step back just because it will be very difficult to assemble a defense like that from a talent standpoint in the future in college football. That said, it's possible for them to be very good. Again, they still have the guy we think is the best player on defense in the country in Caleb Downs.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State has not stopped recruiting top 5 classes. So I definitely think it can be good. Is it a slam dunk? No, it's not. We've never seen this guy at the college level before. But again, you're not asking him to be the head coach. You're really not asking him to be a big recruiter. You're asking him to coach defensive players, put them in the right places, call the right plays. We've actually seen him do that at a higher level. So I'd say it's a fairly safe bet.
Yeah, and there's some important players that are stepping into big spots this year. If you look at their two deep for 2025, you'll see guys like Kenyatta Jackson, who's a 6'6" defensive end. He's a senior. You're kind of hoping to have a similar career arc to Jack Sawyer at the defensive end spot. Edric Houston's a top 50 player who's now a sophomore and ready to step in at defensive tackle. Sonny Styles is a senior that has been productive for Ohio State at linebacker. They're getting Igmanosin back. Jermaine Matthews played a lot. Lorenzo Styles at corner. Caleb Downs and Jalen McClain. And they've got guys who have been highly rated recruits and dudes who played. So it's not like they're going to be barren next year. It's just they're not going to be what they were in terms of depth and overall talent.
Exactly right. So that's why it's a pretty safe bet, because the players are probably pretty good. Are they going to be as good as last year? Probably not. But we'll see.